Hey guys, my name's Alan Thomas, and I have Transform My Future and Rethink Dieting for Men. And I wanted to talk to you guys about starting with surrender. A little bit about my story. In 2017, I reached 304 pounds and uh, looked down at the scale. I couldn't believe what I saw. I was 55 years old, father of four, been married for 31 years at that point, and realized that I'd never met a man that was 65 that was over 100 pounds overweight, and it just jolted me. And so I went on a very public journey where I lost 129 pounds in 260 days, and now I help individuals lose the weight that holds them back from living the life that they're supposed to live. And so what I want to talk to you tonight about is just surrender. It's when I talk to people every single day about weight. I mean, nobody gets on the phone with me, almost never, who doesn't have a lot of weight to lose, and it generally starts with a conversation about how successful they are at it, and those are coping mechanisms that I used to use myself, and I always listen to it, and they may be very successful individuals and in a lot of other areas, but foundationally, I guess my question would be, how can you be successful? How, because I wasn't, and I say this from having been there, how could I possibly be successful and be 100 plus pounds overweight? And I'm not trying to fat shame anybody. That's, because I was that person. I had a great marriage, I had great kids, had successful in sales, but I was getting destroyed physically because I couldn't put down the fork. And it's so interesting when I look back at that time period, and when the light finally came on, and I just I realized I had not had a heart attack yet, but one was on the way. I mean, there was no doubt. I hadn't, my wife hadn't left me yet because of my weight. I mean, I talk to men every day. I actually talked to somebody yesterday that he believes his wife left him over his weight, and I felt for him. And I hadn't, you know, I hadn't lost any sales that I knew about because I'm overweight, but I always wondered when I walked into a room if people were looking at my size and saying, this guy can't be successful because, successful people would never be that fat. So I don't know if I want to do business with him. And I hadn't, I talk to people who don't believe that they've been looked over for job promotions, and they're 75, 50, 100, 200 pounds overweight. And I would say to them, while, companies aren't allowed to my knowledge, aren't allowed to discriminate based on weight. I don't believe they are. But, have you ever wondered how you got passed over for promotion where you clearly were the superior choice, but they went with the other guy or gal just because they were a normal body weight? And I don't say any of this to shame people. I just say, to wake up. So many of us, when we talk about our health and our weight, it's always about, well, I don't have, I don't really have high blood pressure. My blood pressure is controlled with my medication. Well, you got high blood pressure if you're on blood pressure medication. And my doctor says my type 2 diabetes are not that bad. I'm only on insulin for type 2 diabetes. Well, if you've got type 2 diabetes and you're 100 pounds overweight, it's very likely that you're not doing as well as you think. If you ask your doctor, and I'm not a physician, but if you ask your doctor and said, if you got to a normal weight, it's very likely you may get off some of that medication with type 2 diabetes. I haven't had any complications of those diabetes yet, so it's not that bad. And I haven't, my kids haven't started bringing, stopping bringing friends over because I'm so fat. I know that happened with my daughter. She would never have said that to me, but, she clearly would have was ashamed of how fat I was. And so, all these different things that we cope with, that I coped with. And, it's real common. I run into this a lot where, the men I talk to that are really depressed about how they look and how they feel, but on the outside, they're these jovial, funny, overweight men. That's how I was. I was always joking about my weight, making fun of it, and but I was dying inside, and it breaks my heart when I talk to individuals who struggle at that level and are in belief, literally have their head stuck in the sand, that the weight that they're carrying is not affecting every aspect of their life. It is. I mean, it affects your financially. I mean, when you're overweight, it just does. I mean, you can affect it just from the cost of what your medication is, or the medication you will have, or the number of years that you're not going to be alive. The average man lives 4 years less and lives 18 years, 18 years of sickness. Those are medical studies, that 18 years of sickness because of obesity and then dying 4 years early, that's a financial cost. I mean, you think about your family and your relationships. I mean, when you stand up, if you're active in your church or organizations where you speak, when you step up on stage in front of that microphone, people are making a decision about you right then, love it or hate it. It's just true. And that, your impact. I mean, your impact as an individual. My impact was minimized for sure. I mean, because of my weight, 304 pounds, you better believe it, at 5'11". I know it was. I knew it. Every time I spoke, I was thinking about how fat I was. I was always thinking I could cover it up, that I could cover up my obesity. And, you can't cover it up. You can hide, you can believe that it's covered up, but it won't be. The number of men I talk to that just don't do anything socially because they're just embarrassed. They might use the excuse that they're tired. And they probably are, from carrying around the weight, just like I was. But to not interact socially, I mean, what's that cost? I mean, what are all those things, and all your careers and your ambition and your dreams that you don't do, all the things you're not doing because of obesity. And I say this stuff, not to depress you if you're overweight, or somebody overweight, but just really to encourage you with this. I mean, almost anything that you do where you're going to overcome something that's overwhelming, like weight, that you've never been able to get control of, it really starts with surrender. I mean, that was something I was thinking about that today. What did it really start with? It started with complete surrender. Diets. I had been on, dozens of diets, and the diets never worked for me because I couldn't stick to them. And so I had to surrender. A coach of mine says I had to empty my cup. I had to empty my cup, and then, I was able to fill it up with my dream of being a normal weight. I mean, and it is different. I mean, I'm 59 right now, and I feel younger than I did when I was 30 because I'm healthy. I mean, my wife and I, we're out there riding bikes this morning. It was cool here on Amelia Island. It was about 40 when we were riding our bikes, but man, we were trucking along and doing really well. I don't know what we rode today, 6-7 miles. It's not a big deal, but because we want to, not just because we have to, because we want to. And just having the accomplishment that you get the weight off, and when you sit down in a chair and you just feel that you can't feel your butt bumping up to the side of it. I mean, there's so many things that are just these little things that really don't matter, but they all add up. But it all started with me surrendering. It all started with me surrendering and saying I had to just completely rethink the process of losing weight, because nothing had ever worked for me. And when I work with men and I talk to them, and it's so much fun to hear their stories. And They're, it's stuff that you wouldn't think of. I mean, sure, it's health stuff that they're doing better. Their doctors are surprised when they go into the doctor's office and they've lost weight during COVID-19. I mean, who loses weight during COVID-19? Who loses weight over Thanksgiving? My guys are losing weight over Thanksgiving. I mean, who is doing that? I mean, it came from them emptying their cup, realizing that their solution was not just found in a diet. And that was me. I thought it was always going to be this perfect diet. I was going to find this perfect diet that was just going to fix everything, and it was going to be magical, and it was going to be easy, and I'd be able to eat anything I want, and I'd still lose weight. Well, baloney. That didn't happen. But it all started with surrender. Every one of these guys that I work with, they started with surrender. They started with surrender, and it was, what's crazy, I never tell them what to eat, because they already knew. But it started right here between their ears, just like it did between mine. It started with mindset and shifting the beliefs and in doing something completely different. And when I see these guys winning at the level they're capable of winning, the ones who do the work, is it easy? No. But is it simple? Yeah. Do they have to go run 1,000,000 miles? No. I mean, if they want to exercise a bunch, they can. I mean, one of my guys is doing like 10 miles a day. I'm like, awesome. I'm not doing 10 miles a day. You don't have to, but that's what he chose to do. And I think that's awesome that he's doing that. So, I'm not a doctor, nutritionist, dietitian, physical fitness expert. I'm just a guy who found his way through the wilderness of obesity, and I'm able to help men reach out to the other side, because there's a way out, but it has got to start with surrender. It does. There's just no other way. I wish there were. And then, when you get there, it's about staying there at that ideal weight. So, think about all those things. I sent out an email the other day, and it said, these are things I hear from guys that I talk to on the phone. They believe they're relatively healthy. They're not on much medication yet. They haven't had a heart attack yet. They haven't had an amputation due to type 2 diabetes yet. Their wife hadn't gotten completely fed up and left them yet. Their weight hasn't cost them their career yet. They haven't gone through all their retirement and their savings to battle the cost of obesity yet. And ultimately, their weight had not killed them yet. It sounds pretty harsh when I say these words out loud, but I mean, obesity is killing 300 million people a year in the United States. 300 million. I mean, it's insane. Or 300,000, whatever the number is. 300 million is the wrong number. I misspoke. 300,000. It's still an insane number. 40 million men are obese in this country. 300,000 deaths because of the fork. And people say to me all the time, well, I'm exercising a lot. Well, that's great. But if you're eating twice as much as you exercise, you're probably not going to overcome it with your exercise. You got to change. Do you have to eat, less, eat differently? Of course you do. Do you have to change what your behavior is? Of course you do. But it all starts with mindset. But it really starts with surrender. So listen, if you're stuck and don't know what to do yet, reach out to me. Go to transformmyfuture.com/apply. You can book a free breakthrough session. We'll map out a strategy to see if to help you get to the other side. If you want to check out my free masterclass, I'd encourage you to do that before even booking a call. Go to rethinkdieting.com. I have 5-step strategies that I use to traverse the wilderness of obesity and get to the other side 3 years ago, or almost 4 years ago now, I guess it is. But be encouraged. I mean, I would say this to anybody who's watching, be encouraged. I mean, I've got guys who've never been able to lose weight. They're losing weight. Some guys never even been on a structured diet. And I don't put them on one. I just say, let's figure it out together. Let's you become an expert on you. And I give them the strategies that work, and when they work them, they just work. And so if you feel like you're hopeless and don't know what to do, reach out to me at transformmyfuture.com/apply. We'll pick a spot on the calendar. I've got a short little questionnaire to fill out, so I'll be able to come up with a really good plan for you before we get on the call. And I'd love to talk to you. But you guys be encouraged, but remember, it's going to start with surrender. If you're not ready to surrender to what's been not working and try something else. You're probably not there yet. But if you're there and you're ready to surrender and ready to be coachable, decisive, committed, then jump on a call with me. Love to talk to you. And you guys, hey, have a great night and be blessed.